What's up, squad? Welcome back to another unbiased magic review. Today I have a requested magic review for you, and that is the Evolution Project by Alejandro Navas.
A new project of virtual magic.
For $25, you can pick up this 30-minute instructional video from your favorite magic dealer where you're going to watch Alejandro Navas perform and then explain 5 card routines that are primarily focused for video chat magic, that is Zoom or Skype. You're also going to learn a false shuffle, which is perfect for virtual magic because your spectator is the one that does the false shuffle. You can also use it in real life. And you're also going to get access to a Facebook user group where you're going to learn another card routine there. So you're going to get 6 effects for $25. That's a pretty good value. Nowadays, you can expect to usually just get 1 effect for $30 or more. Now, this was a requested magic review, although I've been road testing this material now for well over 2 weeks, and I had already planned on doing this review. So this happened to coincide well. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised here, as none of this magic relies on any complicated sleight of hand. It is all clever principles and procedure, which is going to get you way ahead of the spectator. I'm going to give you guys a really good idea of what you can expect here. I would have liked to show you some of my own performances, but Alejandro Navas has included a disclaimer on this project where he doesn't want anyone to post any performances on social media like YouTube or Instagram. So some of these effects, you can perform them live as well, so that's kind of nice. I think anyone who's into card magic is gonna like this. There's a few effects here which I didn't really like, and so I would rate this overall as 3 out of 5, but I think that for those people that are into card magic, they're really gonna like this a lot, because like I said, it's not just something you can perform over video chat. You can perform some of this stuff live as well, and you're gonna like the actual principles that a lot of this stuff is based on. This magic is very modular, so the first 3 effects go together perfectly. The last 2 effects go together, so you don't have to perform all of it, and you can just perform 1 or 2 of these routines. What is really nice is that like the first effect sets up the next 2, and it's really nice to see that kind of routining in magic where 1 effect will actually set up more effects down the road. That's, you know, thinking way ahead of your spectator. And you see that a lot with memorized deck magic, where you hand out a deck and your spectator shuffles it up and you do an effect that gets you back into a partial stack or a full stack. So now you can do a memorized deck effect and you're way ahead of the spectator. They're never going to expect that. So that's pretty much what you're going to be able to expect to find on this project. I'm going to give you guys a good idea of these routines. The basic routines are as follows. There's a coincidence type effect. There's a virtual transposition type effect. There's a 2-card ambitious card type effect. There's an oil and water type effect. And then finally, there's an any card at any number effect. Those are the 5 effects. Let's go over those so you have a good idea of what you're going to get here. So the first effect is called empathy. And this feels like a do as I do type of routine. And I think that the presentation and the patter is excellent. In fact, I liked the presentation and patter of the first 3 routines. I thought it was very well justified. So here, you're gonna take some cards and your spectator is gonna emulate you. They're gonna take some cards, you're gonna shuffle them, you fan them out, you mentally select a card, they do the same. You take out your mentally selected card and you put it into the middle of your little packet, and then you give it a cut, you burn a couple cards, there's a little bit of procedure involved, and then finally at the end, you're going to take out your mentally selected card. They do the same. You both turn them around, and it's a perfect match. It's a perfect coincidence. I got some really strong reactions with it. I think that you're going to like this a lot, and I think all of the procedure is well justified and it makes sense. So I think it's an effect that you're going to like a lot. And like I said, this is beginner level, so you're going to be able to perform this literally immediately. Now this goes right into the next effect, which is called connection. And for me, this was my favorite effect here. You're probably gonna like it as much because this is more of like a divination and virtual transposition effect. Now imagine your spectator has two cards that they had set aside from before. They don't know what they are. They pick them up and they just mix them up. And then they just take one and look at it and memorize it. They again mix up the two cards under the table or whatnot, and they take one sight unseen and put it back into the deck. The other card that they don't know the identity of, they're holding it in their hands. Now in continuation, you get a feeling of what maybe the card is they're thinking of. You go through your deck, you take out a card, and then you ask them what card they're thinking of. You show them that the card in your hand is not the card they're thinking of. In continuation, you turn it back around, you blow on it, and now the card you're holding is the card that they were merely thinking of. And as a kicker, when they open up their hands and they look, they'll see that the card that is between their hands is the card that you initially showed them. So this is like a virtual transposition of a card. The method is very layered, and so you're way ahead of the spectator, which is really nice. It looks magical and impossible. I got the strongest reactions in my own performances with this effect out of the first three. Finally, the last effect that goes together with these is one that's called remote ambition. And this is a type of two-card ambitious card routine where your spectator is going to select two cards. One of them they're not going to look at, they're just going to mark it with a Sharpie, and then the second card they're actually going to look at and memorize. Now they reassemble the deck, and you tell them to put their hand over it, and you tell them that they're going to imagine that the card that they're thinking of is going to rise to the top. You tell them to take a look at it as if it was an invisible card, like they're not holding anything, just a virtual card, and you tell them the card they're thinking of. In continuation, you now tell them you're going to make it real, and you're going to make the other card rise to the top. So that again, they do the same type of procedure, except now the card that's on the top is one that they marked with the Sharpie. So I really liked definitely the premise and the presentation here is excellent. I really liked also the variation of a move by Balducci that he teaches you, which is really clever and super simple for your spectator to do. These first three effects go together perfectly. It's a really nice routine, and I think that this alone is worth picking up the project just for these three effects. The last two effects I really didn't care too much for, but I'm going to give you an idea of what they were. The fourth effect is an oil and water type effect, which he calls the right. And here you have the spectator go through the deck and they take out a three of a kind. You tell them that that three of a kind is like oil and the rest of the deck is like water. Now you have them alternate the cards face down, and then you have them take them and put them back on the deck, and then naturally the oil separates from the water. The problem here is that there is a discrepancy. There's a lot of procedure involved because you have to go through the whole deck. And the other thing was I found that my spectators found it a little bit confusing that the three of a kind is oil and the rest of the deck is water. Now, the actual premise kind of felt a little bit convoluted. You know, the typical classical oil and water type effect, it has to do with the colors of the cards. The effect is instantly repeatable, and some of you may like it. I just didn't like how procedure heavy it was. It's definitely not something that I plan on performing anymore. Now, the last effect, which is called Burgless 2.0, relies on the last effect for the method. So you can't do it alone. You have to do the right to be able to perform Burgless 2.0. To make things even worse, Burgless 2.0 relies on using another person to help you. So I actually didn't perform Burgless 2.0 for anyone, and I don't think it's practical, and you probably won't perform it because you need help from another person. If you're gonna do an any card at any number where you're using another person to help you, well then you might as well just use a stooge. That's really the truth, because then it would be really impossible looking. But to give you an idea of what it looks like, the spectator has a deck of cards in front of them. You have them think of any card, you have them think of any number, and then as an example you tell them, like, for example, maybe you had said like you wanted number 10 and you had them deal out 10 cards, and you tell them like, now let's say you were thinking of the ace of clubs. Wouldn't that be impossible if the next card were the ace of clubs? Of course it's not. You have them reassemble the deck, and now they count down to the number they're merely thinking of, and they will find their thought of card there. So this is not a pure any card in any number. And so for that reason, and the reason that you have to use somebody else to help you, and you have to do another routine just to get into it, it's just not practical. I don't think anyone's going to use it. And I think that's the main reason why Alejandro Navas has offered to teach you another version of any card at any number with his Facebook user group. After Burglars 2.0, you're going to learn a false shuffle from Pablo Valverde, which is another magician friend of Alejandro Navas. And that is a false shuffle that your spectator can do themselves, and it's perfect for if you're using it over any type of video chat. As I mentioned, you can also do it in real life with your spectator, so I think a lot of you are going to find that very useful, and I thought it was really clever even though it's so simple. So definitely worth checking that out as well. So taken as a whole though, I think the project is definitely worth picking up if you're into card magic. If you're into video chat magic, you're absolutely going to love it. In terms of the positives, this is super easy to do. The presentations are really good. The routining is excellent. You get way ahead of the spectator. I think that anyone who's into card magic is definitely going to like it a lot. I really like how it's modular. It gets really good reactions. So those are all the real positives. And some of these routines you can also perform live for people, as I had mentioned. For example, the routine that is called Connection, or the other one that was the Remote Ambitious routine, you could perform those live for people as well. So they're not just effects that you have to do over video chat. In terms of the real negative things here, some of these effects are just not practical or very procedure heavy, as I mentioned. The other thing I really didn't like was I didn't like how Alejandro Navas has put that disclaimer that you can't post any of your performances on social media. That's also kind of a negative for me. That being said though, I definitely would recommend this project for you. I think you're getting a lot for your money. I think that anyone who's into card magic is definitely going to like this a lot. So that's my review today. If you have any questions or comments about this project or anything else that I review, please just leave me a comment below. And this has been another requested magic review.